I'm Ruby, 23 years old, and the oldest of 6 kids. Since I was 10, I've been more than just a big sister. I became a second mom, cooking meals, checking homework, and tucking little ones into bed while my own mother lived her life. I sacrificed my dreams, my education, and my youth. Then came the family dinner when mom announced baby number 7 was on the way. Something inside me finally broke. I decided for once to put myself first. What I never expected was that my mother would call the police on me. Let me know where you're watching from and hit that like and subscribe button to see how I finally stood up for myself after years of raising someone else's children. Growing up in the small town of Riverdale, Ohio, my childhood was cut short at the age of 10. That's when everything changed. My mother, Diane, was always the beautiful one in town. With her striking blue eyes and charming smile, she could win over just about anyone. At 42 now, she still turns heads. But behind that pretty face is a woman who never quite figured out how to be responsible. I was born when she was 19, the product of her first marriage to my father, Robert. He was a kind man from what little I remember. When I was 9, he died in a construction accident, leaving Mom a young widow with a child. The grief hit her hard, but within months she was dating again. That's how she met Darren, who became the father of my brother Jackson, who's now 17. The pattern continued like clockwork. Diane would find a new man, fall madly in love, have a child, and then the relationship would dissolve. After Darren came Troy, who fathered the twins Emma and Ethan, who are now 15. Then there was Bill, who gave us Sophia, now 12. Kevin came next, bringing Zoe, who's 8 now, and most recently there was Richard, the father of Tyler, who just turned 4. None of these men stayed in the picture for long. Some paid child support, others vanished completely. With each new baby and each departed father, more responsibility fell onto my small shoulders. It started small when Dad died. I would help set the table or fold some laundry. But by the time I was 12, I was cooking dinner for everyone while Mom worked, or more often went out with whoever her newest boyfriend was. By 14, I was basically running the household. I would wake up at 5:30 in the morning to get breakfast ready for everyone, pack lunches, make sure the twins had their sports equipment, and Sophia had her violin for lessons. After school, while other kids went to the mall or joined clubs, I picked up Tyler from daycare, helped the others with homework, started dinner, supervised baths, and somehow tried to finish my own schoolwork after everyone was in bed. My high school graduation should have been a launching pad to college and independence. I had actually received a partial scholarship to the State University for nursing. I had dreams of becoming a pediatric nurse, but Mom made it clear that wasn't possible. "Ruby, honey, I just can't manage without you," she'd said the night I got my acceptance letter. "The kids need you. I need you. College can wait a year or two, can it?" Those 1 or 2 years turned into 5. I found work at the local supermarket then as a receptionist at a dental office, giving most of my paycheck to Mom for household expenses. The small amount I kept for myself went into a savings account I dreamed would someday fund my education. Our financial situation was always precarious. Child support payments were inconsistent, and Mom's job as a waitress at the local diner barely covered the basics. When the washing machine broke, it was my savings that paid for repairs. When Jackson needed braces, I picked up extra shifts to help cover the cost. The hardest part wasn't the work or the money, though. It was watching Mom bring home man after man, introducing them to my siblings as potential new daddies, only to have them disappear months later. I would be the one drying tears and explaining to confused children why another father figure had vanished. "But Gary said he would take me fishing," Tyler had cried just 3 months ago when Mom's latest boyfriend left. "He promised." "I know, buddy," I had said, holding him close. "Maybe I can take you to the pond instead." The conflicting emotions were the worst. I loved my siblings fiercely. Jackson, with his quiet intelligence and love of books. The twins, Emma and Ethan, so different yet so connected. Emma was our athlete, Ethan, our musician. Sophia, artistic and sensitive. Zoe, funny and bold despite her young age. And little Tyler, still so innocent and trusting. But alongside that, love grew a deep resentment toward my mother. Why was I barely an adult myself raising her children? Why did she get to enjoy her freedom while I had none? In my darkest moments, I wondered if she had children simply because she liked the baby stage, but lost interest when they required actual parenting. Still, I tried to carve out small pieces of a life for myself. I had a few friends who understood my situation, though many had drifted away over the years when I canceled plans too many times because a child was sick or mom needed to work an extra shift. I had dreams of my own apartment, maybe with my best friend Melissa, who had stuck by me through everything. We would look at rental listings online, planning our escape, but something always came up to drain my savings or demand my time. My life was stuck in a holding pattern while everyone else moved forward. My current job is at Sunshine Daycare Center, where I work full-time taking care of other people's children. The irony isn't lost on me that I spend all day with toddlers only to come home to more childcare duties. The pay is better than my previous jobs, though, and occasionally I can bring Tyler with me to save on his daycare costs. For 3 years now, Melissa and I have been planning to get an apartment together. She's been ready the entire time, but something always happens on my end. Last year, we found a perfect two-bedroom place near the community college. I had just enough saved for the security deposit when Zoe broke her arm falling off the swing set, and my savings went to cover the emergency room copay that mom couldn't afford. The physical toll of my lifestyle has started catching up with me. At 23, I should be in the prime of my life, but instead, I battle constant exhaustion. I've developed tension headaches that sometimes turn into full-blown migraines. My doctor suggested reducing stress, and I couldn't help but laugh. You try telling 6 kids and a dysfunctional mother that you need to reduce stress, I told him. The tension between mom and me has been building for months. 2 weeks ago, I approached her about cutting back my responsibilities at home so I could take an online class in medical terminology, the first step toward eventually pursuing my nursing dream. Online class, she'd scoffed. Ruby, be realistic. When would you even have time for that? Besides, the kids are used to you being there. They need consistency. I need a future mom, I'd argued. I'm 23. Most people my age have finished college by now. Most people your age don't have the responsibility of family, she'd countered, her voice taking on that martyred tone I'd grown to hate. Family comes first, Ruby. You know that. Those kids adore you. Would you really disappoint them? It's her favorite weapon, using the kids against me. Because she's right about one thing. They do adore me, and I adore them. The thought of disappointing them makes my stomach hurt. Still, I signed up for the class anyway. Not telling her, I would study late at night after everyone was asleep, surviving on 4 hours of sleep and too much coffee. It wasn't sustainable, but it was something that was just for me. Another complication in my life is James. We met 6 months ago when he came to fix the air conditioning at the daycare center. He asked me out 3 times before I finally said yes, and somehow, despite my chaotic schedule, we've been dating ever since. He's 30, established in his career as an HVAC technician, and wonderfully patient with my situation. But even his patience has limits. Last weekend was supposed to be our 6-month anniversary dinner. He had made reservations at the nicest restaurant in town, the kind with cloth napkins and more than one fork. I had arranged for Melissa to stay with the kids, and mom had promised to be home by 7. But at 6:30, she called. Ruby, I'm so sorry, but Margie called in sick and they need me to cover her shift. You understand, right? We need the money. I had called James in tears, canceling our special night. He was understanding as always, but I heard the disappointment in his voice. It's okay, Ruby. Maybe next weekend. But we both knew next weekend would bring some other crisis, some other reason why my needs came last. Last week was particularly brutal. Tyler caught a stomach bug and shared it with Zoe and Sophia. I took 2 days off work, losing pay. I couldn't afford to lose to care for them. The twins had a major school project due, and I stayed up until 2 in the morning helping them finish it because mom had promised to help, but then went out with Kyle, her newest boyfriend. By Friday, I was running on fumes. When Melissa texted asking if I wanted to grab a quick drink after work, just 1 hour to decompress, I agreed almost desperately. I arranged for Jackson to watch the younger kids, promising to be back by 7. And for the first time in months, I put myself first. That 1 hour of normalcy, sitting in a bar like a regular 23-year-old laughing with my friend, felt like oxygen after nearly drowning. But when I got home at 7:15, mom was waiting, arms crossed. Nice of you to finally show up, she said, as if I had been gone for days instead of minutes past my promised return. Tyler has been asking for you. He wouldn't let me put him to bed. Said only Ruby does it right. The guilt trip worked as it always did. I spent the next hour calming Tyler, reading him 3 stories instead of our usual one, trying to make up for my brief absence. Later that night, I called my therapist, Dr. Lisa, leaving a message on her after-hours line. I had started seeing her 3 months ago using the employee assistance program at work for the 6 free sessions. She was the first person who had ever used the term parentification to describe my situation. What you're experiencing isn't normal, Ruby, she had told me in our first session. Parents are supposed to care for their children, not the other way around. You've been parentified, forced to take on adult responsibilities and emotional burdens that were never yours to carry. Those words had hit me like a physical blow. There was a name for what had happened to me. It wasn't normal. It wasn't right. In our sessions, I had started to recognize the unhealthy patterns in our family dynamic, the way Mom manipulated me with guilt, the way I had sacrificed my own development to parent her children. But knowing something is wrong and having the strength to change it are 2 very different things. Every time I thought about creating boundaries or my secret dream actually moving out, I would look at Tyler's little face or help Sophia with her math homework, and my resolve would crumble. How could I leave them? But increasingly, a new question was forming in my mind. How could I stay and ever have a life of my own? The evening that changed everything started like any other family dinner. I had made lasagna, Tyler's favorite, and a salad that I knew most of the kids wouldn't touch, but I kept trying anyway. Mom was actually home for dinner, a rare occurrence lately, and she had brought Kyle with her. Kyle was 35, 7 years younger than Mom, with a sleeve of tattoos, and a job bartending at the pub where Mom sometimes picked up extra shifts. They had been dating for about 3 months, and he seemed nice enough playing video games with Jackson and the twins, and bringing little treats for the younger kids. But I had seen this movie before and knew how it ended. We were all seated around our scratched dining table, the younger kids chattering about their day at school when Mom clinked her water glass with her fork. "Everyone, Kyle and I have an announcement," she said, her face glowing in a way I recognized all too well. My stomach dropped before she even said the words. I knew what was coming. "We're having a baby!" Mom exclaimed, reaching for Kyle's hand. "You're all going to have a new little brother or sister in about 7 months." The reactions around the table varied widely. The twins looked at each other with raised eyebrows, communicating in that silent way they had. Jackson closed his eyes briefly, his fork suspended midway to his mouth. Sophia and Zoe started chattering excitedly about having a baby in the house again, while Tyler looked confused. "Like a doll?" he asked, and everyone laughed, breaking some of the tension. Everyone except me. I couldn't laugh. I couldn't even fake a smile, because I knew exactly what this meant. Another child that would ultimately become my responsibility. Another life that would delay my own. I felt the walls closing in my carefully constructed plans for eventually getting my own life crumbling to dust. "Ruby," Mom said, finally noticing my silence. "Aren't you excited?" I forced my lips into what I hoped resembled a smile. "Congratulations." I managed to say the word, tasting like ash in my mouth. The rest of dinner passed in a blur. I nodded at appropriate intervals, served dessert on autopilot, and loaded the dishwasher while my mind raced. When the kids dispersed to finish homework or watch TV, Mom cornered me in the kitchen. "You don't seem very happy about the baby," she said, a hint of accusation in her voice. I wiped my hands on a dish towel, buying time. "I'm just surprised," I said finally. "Well, these things happen," she said with a little laugh. "Kyle and I are excited, though. And I know I can count on you to help out. You're so good with the little ones." There it was, the assumption that had defined my entire adolescence and adult life. Mom gets to have the babies, and Ruby gets to raise them. "Mom," I said carefully, "I've been meaning to talk to you. I'm thinking about taking more classes, maybe even going part-time at work and part-time at community college. I want to start working toward my nursing degree." She frowned. "Now with a new baby coming, Ruby, that doesn't make sense. We'll need you more than ever." "I need a life too," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. "I'm 23. I've put my life on hold for years to help with the kids. I love them, you know I do, but I can't keep doing this. Mom's expression hardened. So, what are you saying? That you're just going to abandon your family when we need you most? That's pretty selfish, Ruby. The word selfish hit like a slap. How many times had I heard that when I wanted something for myself, Ruby wants to join the school play? Selfish. Ruby wants to go to prom, selfish. Ruby wants to go to college, selfish. Is it selfish to want what everyone else my age already has? I asked, my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. Is it selfish to want an education, a career, maybe someday a family of my own? I didn't have these kids, Mom. You did. Her eyes widened. We had argued before, but I had never spoken to her like this. After everything I've done for you, she said, her voice trembling dramatically. After all the sacrifices I've made as a single mother. What about my sacrifices? I demanded. I was a child when I started raising your children. A child. I haven't had a normal day since Dad died. Every decision I've made has been about this family, about your kids. Our family, she corrected sharply. And they're your siblings. Are you saying you don't love them? Don't you dare. I said, anger flaring hot and bright. Don't you dare use them against me. I love them more than anything. That's why I've stayed this long. But I can't do it anymore, Mom. Not with another baby. I just can't. So what are you going to do? She asked, her tone mocking now. Move out. Abandon them. Break their hearts. In that moment, something crystallized within me. A certainty I had never felt before. Yes, I said quietly. I'm going to move out. I need to have a life of my own. She stared at me as if I'd grown a second head. You're not serious. I am. I'll still see the kids. I'll still be their sister. But I can't be their mother anymore. That's your job. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Fine, have your little tantrum. But we both know you won't really leave. You're too responsible. Too caring. When you calm down, we'll talk about how to rearrange the bedrooms for the new baby. She walked out of the kitchen then so confident that I would fall in line as I always had. But something had broken inside me, some chain that had kept me tethered to this house, to this life. I went to my room and called Melissa, my hands shaking. I need to move out, I said when she answered. Not someday, now, tonight. There was a pause, and then Melissa, my steadfast friend, said the words that would change my life. My brother can bring his truck over in an hour. Pack what you need. You can stay with me until we figure things out. I spent the next hour in a blur of activities, shoving clothes into garbage bags, gathering important documents, my laptop, the few mementos I couldn't bear to leave behind. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my fingertips, a strange mix of terror and exhilaration flooding my system. Before leaving, I crept into each of my siblings' rooms. They were all asleep, Mom and Kyle having gone out to celebrate their news. I stood over each bed memorizing beloved faces, whispering tearful goodbyes. I love you, I told each sleeping child. I'm not abandoning you. I'm just changing how I love you. I'll always be your sister. By midnight, Melissa's brother was loading the last of my meager possessions into his truck, and I was closing the door on the only life I had ever known. The dawn light filtering through unfamiliar curtains woke me the next morning. For a disoriented moment, I couldn't place where I was. Then reality crashed back. I was on Melissa's pull-out couch. I had left home. For the first time in 13 years, I hadn't woken up to make breakfast for 6 children. My phone, which I had turned off the night before, sat on the coffee table like a ticking bomb. I knew what awaited me when I turned it on. Sure enough, when I finally gathered the courage to power it up, it exploded with notifications. 27 missed calls from Mom. 49 text messages, most from her, but some from Jackson and the twins, too. I opened Jackson's first. Where are you? Mom's freaking out. Are you okay? Then Emma's, Ruby, what's happening? Mom says you moved out. Is that true? And Ethan's, please come home. Tyler keeps asking for you. Each message was a knife to my heart, but I had anticipated this pain. I had known it would hurt them initially, but I also knew bone deep that this was necessary, not just for me, but ultimately for them too. They needed to see that it was possible to break unhealthy patterns to choose yourself sometimes. I crafted a careful message to the older siblings explaining that I loved them deeply, but needed to start my own life. I promised to stay in touch, to still be present for important events, to always be their sister, just not their caretaker. To the younger ones, I sent voice messages. They could replay, assuring them in the gentlest terms that I wasn't gone forever, just living in a new place. To Mom, I sent nothing. Her messages ranged from furious accusations to tearful pleas, with stops at guilt tripping and manipulation along the way. I couldn't engage with that energy. Not now, when my resolve was still so fragile. That first day was surreal. Melissa had to work, so I was alone in her apartment. The silence was deafening. No one needed a snack. No one had spilled anything. No one was fighting over the television remote. I kept catching myself listening for the sounds that had formed the soundtrack of my life, the constant low-level chaos of a house full of children. I made myself a cup of coffee and sat down with it while it was still hot, a simple luxury that nearly brought me to tears. I took a shower without anyone banging on the door needing something urgently. I looked at the community college website browsing courses with a sense of possibility that felt foreign and thrilling. By evening, the guilt was warring with the relief. I loved those kids. Had I damaged them by leaving, would Tyler understand why his bedtime story reader was gone? Would Zoe feel abandoned, adding another person to the list of those who had left her? James came over after work bringing takeout and a supportive presence. We sat on Melissa's balcony eating Chinese food directly from the containers. "I'm proud of you," he said simply. "I know how hard this was." Was it the right thing? I asked the question that had been circling my mind all day. They're just kids. They didn't ask for any of this. "Neither did you," he pointed out gently. "You were a kid too when you started raising them. You gave them 13 years, Ruby. That's enough." His words comforted me, but the night was still difficult. I tossed and turned on the pull-out couch, my dreams filled with crying children. I woke up reaching for Tyler, who often crawled into my bed after nightmares. The next day brought more messages from Mom, escalating in their intensity. She threatened to cut me off from the kids entirely if I didn't stop this nonsense and come home. She said I was breaking their hearts, that Tyler had cried himself to sleep asking for me. Each message was designed to hit me where I was most vulnerable, my love for my siblings. It was working. By the third day, I was questioning everything, wondering if I had made a terrible mistake. Then I woke up and realized something startling. The persistent headache I had lived with for months was gone. My shoulders, perpetually tight with tension, had relaxed. I had slept through the night without waking once. My body was telling me what my heart was still struggling to accept. This was right. This was necessary. This was long overdue. The knock on Melissa's door came shortly after noon on the third day after I had left home. I was alone in the apartment, applying for a better-paying position at a medical office, hoping to save enough to start classes in the upcoming semester. Through the peephole, I could see 2 police officers standing in the hallway. My heart leapt into my throat. Had something happened to one of the kids? I flung the door open, fear making my voice high and tight. "Yes, is everything okay?" The officers, a middle-aged man and a younger woman, looked at me with professional neutrality. "Are you Ruby Wilson?" the male officer asked. "Yes," I said, my mind racing through terrible possibilities. "What's happened? Is it one of my siblings?" "No, ma'am," he said. "We're responding to a report of theft. A Diane Wilson has reported that you removed items from her home without permission. She's alleging you stole several items, including a laptop and jewelry." For a moment, I couldn't process what he was saying. Then understanding dawned with a sick feeling in my stomach. Mom had called the police on me. She was claiming I had stolen from her. "That's not true," I said, my voice shaking. "The laptop is mine. I bought it with my own money from working at Sunshine Daycare. I don't have any of her jewelry. I only took my own belongings." The female officer's expression softened slightly. "May we come in and discuss this?" I stepped back, letting them into Melissa's small apartment. The few possessions I had brought were neatly stacked in the corner of the living room, my life reduced to 3 garbage bags and a backpack. "Those are all my things," I said, gesturing to the beings. "I lived with my mother and 6 younger siblings. I'm 23. I moved out 3 days ago because my mother is pregnant with her 7th child, and I've been raising her children since I was 10 years old. I couldn't do it anymore." The words tumbled out, years of pent-up frustration and pain spilling over. I showed them pay stubs from my job receipts for the laptop I had purchased, photos on my phone of me with the kids over the years. "I would never steal from them," I said, wiping away tears that had started falling despite my best efforts. "I love those kids. They're the reason I stayed so long." The officers exchanged a look I couldn't quite interpret. "Your mother seems quite upset," the female officer said carefully. "She said you left without warning, abandoning your responsibilities." "My responsibilities," I repeated, a flash of anger cutting through my distress. "They're not my children. They're hers. I was a child myself when I started taking care of them. Is it a crime to want my own life at 23? Before they could answer, there was another knock at the door, this one forceful and familiar. I knew who it was before I opened it. Mom stood in the hallway, Kyle hovering awkwardly behind her. Her eyes were red from crying, her hair uncombed, the picture of maternal distress. "Officers," she said, ignoring me completely. "Thank you for finding her. As you can see, she's taken quite a bit of our family property." "Your property," I challenged, my voice rising. "Show me one thing here that you paid for, one thing." Mom pushed past me into the apartment, her eyes scanning my meager possessions. "That laptop was a family computer," she declared, pointing. "And you've taken clothes that I bought you." I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. "The clothes you bought me for Christmas 5 years ago. The laptop I saved for by working extra shifts at the daycare center. Is that the best you can do?" The male officer cleared his throat. "Ms. Wilson Diane, perhaps we should all calm down and discuss this rationally." "There's nothing to discuss," Mom said. "She needs to come home. The children are devastated. Tyler cried all night." The manipulation was so transparent, so familiar, that something in me finally snapped. Years of suppressed anger and resentment boiled over. "Don't you dare use them against me," I said, my voice low and intense. "Not anymore. You want to know why Tyler cries at night? Because you're never there to tuck him in. You want to know why Sophia's grades are slipping? Because you've never once attended a parent-teacher conference. You have no idea what Ethan's favorite subject is, or that Emma wants to try out for the travel soccer team but can't because there's no one to drive her to practices. You don't know your own children. Mom, because you've been too busy chasing men and having babies you expect me to raise." The apartment had gone completely silent. Kyle looked like he wanted to sink through the floor. The officers were very still, watching the scene unfold. Mom's face had gone white with shock. I had never spoken to her like this before, never stood my ground so firmly. "I love those kids," I continued, my voice breaking. "God, I love them so much it hurts. And that's why I had to leave. Because they need to see what healthy boundaries look like. They need to see that it's okay to prioritize your own well-being sometimes. I gave them 13 years. 13 years of my childhood, my adolescence, my early adulthood. I'm done. I'll always be their sister, but I will never again be their mother. That's your job." The female officer stepped forward, placing herself slightly between Mom and me. "Diane," she said gently, "it appears to me that these items do belong to your daughter. This seems to be more of a family disagreement than a police matter." "But she can't just leave," Mom insisted, tears streaming down her face now. "The kids need her. I need her." "She's an adult," the officer said firmly. "She has every right to move out and live independently." "Then who's going to help with the kids?" Mom demanded, her voice rising hysterically. "Who's going to get them ready for school and help with homework and make dinner when I'm working? Who's going to take care of the new baby?" The male officer looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, that's not a police matter either. Family services might be able to provide some resources if you're struggling with child care." The mention of family services had an immediate effect on Mom. Her tears dried up and she straightened her shoulders. "This isn't over," she said to me, her voice cold now. You think you can just walk away from your family? We'll see about that." She turned and stalked out, Kyle trailing behind her with an apologetic glance back at me. The officer stayed a few minutes longer taking some notes and expressing awkward sympathy. "Family situations can be complicated," the female officer said kindly. "But for what it's worth, you have every right to live your own life." After they left, I sank onto the pull-out couch, my legs suddenly unable to support me. The confrontation had left me drained, but also strangely empowered. For the first time, I had stood up to Mom's manipulation and named the dysfunction that had defined our family for years. Melissa came home to find me still sitting there staring into space. "Your brother texted me," she said, dropping her bag and rushing to my side. "He saw the police here." "Ruby, what happened?" I told her everything, the words pouring out between sobs. "The police, Mom's accusations, my outburst." "She actually called the cops on you," Melissa said, shaking her head in disbelief. "That's a new low even for her. She'll do anything to maintain control," I said, the realization crystallizing as I spoke. She's terrified of having to actually parent her own children. "What are you going to do now?" Melissa asked. "Are you okay? Do you want to stay here longer? You know you can." I took a deep breath, wiping away tears. "I'm going to find my own place, something I can afford on my salary. I'm going to enroll in classes for the fall semester. I'm going to build the life I've put on hold for 13 years. The fear was still there, the guilt still nagging, but underneath it all was a new feeling, unfamiliar but welcome: freedom. The possibility of a future determined by my own choices rather than someone else's needs. "And the kids?" Melissa asked gently. "I'm going to talk to a lawyer," I said, the idea forming as I spoke. "There has to be a way I can maintain a relationship with them without being trapped in that house. They're not my children, but they're still my family." That evening, I researched free legal aid clinics in our area. I found one that specialized in family law and made an appointment for the following week. I wasn't going to let Mom use the kids as pawns in her game. Somehow, I would find a way to be the sister they deserved while still building a life of my own. The weeks following what I now think of as the police incident were some of the most challenging and transformative of my life. Mom, true to her word, launched a campaign to turn family and mutual friends against me. She told anyone who would listen that I had abandoned my family in their time of need, that I had stolen from her, that I was selfish and uncaring. Some people believed her. My Aunt Kathy, Mom's sister, called to tell me how disappointed she was in me. A couple of family friends stopped speaking to me entirely. But others, those who had witnessed our family dynamic over the years, were more understanding. Mrs. Parker, our next-door neighbor, who had often helped with the kids when they were younger, stopped me in the grocery store to say, "It's about time you lived your own life, Ruby. Don't you let anyone make you feel guilty for that." And my old high school English teacher, who knew how many opportunities I had sacrificed, sent me a card with a simple message: "Proud of you for choosing yourself. It's never too late to start your journey." Those small affirmations helped sustain me through the most painful part of the aftermath. Mom severely restricted my access to my siblings. She blocked my number on the younger kids' phones and told them I didn't want to see them, a cruel lie that cut deep. Jackson, at 17, was old enough to see through her manipulation. He would text me from friends' phones or the school library computer, keeping me updated on everyone. "Mom's a mess," he wrote in one message. "She's realizing how much you actually did around here. The house is chaos. Dinner last night was cereal." I worried about them constantly. Was Sophia remembering to take her allergy medication? Was anyone making sure Zoe practiced her reading? Was Tyler still having nightmares? The urge to rush back and fix everything was almost overwhelming at times. But alongside the worry and guilt, new possibilities were blooming. I increased my hours at the daycare center now that I was available for more shifts. The extra money allowed me to start looking for my own place, something tiny, but mine. I registered for 2 classes at the community college for the fall semester, the first step toward my nursing degree. When I received my acceptance email, I cried, this time from joy rather than despair. James and I grew closer, our relationship deepening now that I could actually make plans and keep them. He helped me shop for furniture at thrift stores, making a game of finding the best deals. For the first time, I could envision a future with him that wasn't constrained by my family obligations. My therapy sessions with Dr. Lisa focused on breaking the codependency patterns that had defined my relationship with Mom for so long. I learned about setting boundaries, about managing guilt, about recognizing manipulation tactics. What you're feeling is normal, Dr. Lisa assured me during one particularly difficult session when I was consumed with worry about the kids. It's called a trauma bond. Your mother created a situation where you were responsible for emotional labor that was never yours to carry. Breaking that bond is painful but necessary for your health. Finding an apartment I could afford on my salary was challenging, but after several weeks of searching, I found a tiny studio about 20 minutes from Melissa's place. It was in an older building with quirky plumbing and no dishwasher, but when the landlord handed me the keys, I felt a surge of pride so intense it brought tears to my eyes. For the first time in my life, I had a space that was completely mine. Moving day was bittersweet. James and Melissa helped me arrange my few pieces of furniture, making the small space as comfortable as possible. We celebrated with pizza and cheap champagne toasting to new beginnings. That night alone in my new apartment, I allowed myself to fully feel the complex emotions I had been managing for weeks: pride in my independence, grief for the relationship with my siblings that had been altered, fear about my financial stability, hope for my future education, and underlying it all, a growing sense of peace of rightness despite the challenges. The first major holiday after moving out was Thanksgiving. Mom had made it clear I wasn't welcome at the family dinner unless I was ready to apologize and come to my senses. Instead, I invited Jackson to have dinner with me in my new place. To my surprise and delight, he accepted lying to Mom about spending the day with a friend. We had a simple meal, just turkey breast mashed potatoes and store-bought pie, but the freedom to talk openly made it the best Thanksgiving I could remember. "The twins want to see you," Jackson told me as we washed dishes together. "They don't believe Mom when she says you don't want to visit." "I want to see them too," I said. "All of you. I'm working with a lawyer to figure out how to make that happen." The free legal aid clinic had been incredibly helpful. While I had no legal right to visitation with my siblings, the lawyer had suggested documenting all attempts at contact and working toward a civil conversation with Mom about reasonable visitation. "Your best leverage," the lawyer had explained, "is that your mother relies on you. Eventually, she'll need your help again, and you can set terms for that help that include regular contact with your siblings." Christmas approached, bringing another wave of guilt and longing. I bought gifts for all the kids, simple things I could afford on my tight budget, and mailed them to the house with individual cards expressing my love and explaining in age-appropriate terms why I had moved out. Mom returned the package unopened. I cried that night, the first time since the initial move that I truly questioned my decision. Had I been selfish? Had I abandoned the people who needed me most? James held me as I sobbed, offering no easy platitudes, just steady support. "You can go back if that's what you truly want," he said finally. "But ask yourself this: would going back really be what's best for them in the long run? Or would it just perpetuate the unhealthy patterns they're growing up with?" His question clarified something I had been struggling to articulate. By leaving, I was modeling something important for my siblings. I was showing them that it's possible to break cycles of dysfunction, to set boundaries, to prioritize your own well-being. If I went back, what message would that send? As I worked through these realizations in therapy, my physical health began to improve dramatically. The chronic headaches disappeared entirely. I slept better than I had in years. The constant knot of tension between my shoulder blades finally released. "Your body is telling you something important," Dr. Lisa pointed out. "It's confirming that this change, while painful, is necessary for your well-being." In January, a text from Jackson brought unexpected news. Mom was struggling with the pregnancy, experiencing complications that required her to rest more, leaving her even less able to manage the household. "She won't admit it," Jackson wrote, "but we're drowning here, Ruby. The little ones are wearing the same clothes for days because no one's doing laundry. There's never any food in the house." It was the opening I had been waiting for, though I took no pleasure in their difficulties. I consulted with my lawyer before responding carefully to Jackson. "I'm willing to help," I told him, "but on my terms this time. I won't move back, but I can come over on weekends to help get things organized, spend time with everyone, maybe prepare some meals for the week." Jackson relayed my offer to Mom, who initially rejected it outright. But as her pregnancy progressed and her discomfort increased, her resolve weakened. By February, 7 months into her pregnancy, she finally reached out directly. The text was brief and still tinged with resentment. "The kids miss you. If you want to visit, you can come on Saturday." It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even particularly gracious. But it was an opening, and I took it. That first visit was awkward and emotional. Tyler ran to me the moment I walked in, wrapping his arms around my legs and refusing to let go for nearly an hour. Zoe vacillated between joy at seeing me and anger at my departure. The twins were cool at first, but thawed as the day progressed. Sophia simply handed me a stack of drawings she had made, each one depicting our family with me in it. Mom stayed in her bedroom most of the day, emerging only briefly. Her pregnancy now visibly advanced, her face drawn with fatigue. "The kitchen's a mess," was all she said by way of greeting. I bit back the retort that rose automatically to my lips. This wasn't about her or our relationship right now. It was about rebuilding connections with my siblings. I spent the day doing laundry, organizing the chaos that had descended on the house, and preparing several meals that could be frozen and reheated during the week. But more importantly, I spent quality time with each child, reassuring them of my love, explaining in terms they could understand why I had needed to move out. "Are you ever coming back?" Tyler asked as I tucked him in that night, a familiar routine that felt both comforting and strange now. "Not to live," I said honestly, "but I'll come visit. And when you're a little older, maybe you can come stay with me sometimes too." It wasn't a perfect solution, but it was a beginning. We established a new pattern where I would come over on Saturdays, helping with household tasks, but also simply being present as their sister, not their caretaker. Mom and I maintained a cool distance, neither of us ready to address the deeper issues between us. But she no longer actively prevented me from seeing the kids, a small victory I cherished. As her due date approached, Mom became increasingly dependent on my Saturday visits. The irony wasn't lost on me. She had spent months punishing me for leaving only to end up needing me again. But this time the dynamic was different. I provided help on my terms, maintaining my boundaries, my separate life. When baby Lily was born in April, I went to the hospital as a supportive sister, not as a default co-messenger. I held my tiny new sister, marveling at her perfect fingers and rosebud mouth. But I felt none of the panic that had accompanied previous siblings' births. The weight of knowing another child's care would fall to me. "She's beautiful," I told Mom sincerely. "Congratulations." Mom looked exhausted, but managed a small smile. "Thanks for coming," she said, the closest thing to warmth she had shown me in months. It was a small moment, but significant. A tiny step toward a new kind of relationship, one based on adult interaction rather than dependency and obligation. 6 months after moving out, my life had transformed in ways I once could barely imagine. My tiny studio apartment had become a true home, decorated with thrift store finds and small touches that expressed my emerging personal style. The freedom to choose the color of my own towels, to leave dishes in the sink, if I felt like it, to play music while I showered. These small liberties still felt like luxuries. My first semester of college had been challenging but deeply satisfying. Balancing work and school required careful time management. But each completed assignment, each good grade was a victory that belonged entirely to me. My relationship with James had deepened into something solid and nurturing. He had proposed the previous month not with an expensive ring, but with a simple band he had chosen carefully, knowing my taste for understated things. "We don't have to set a date right away," he had said, understanding my need to establish my independence before entering a marriage. "I just want you to know that I'm in this for the long haul." I had said yes, certain in a way I had never been before, that this choice was truly mine, not driven by obligation or others' expectations. The most complicated area of my new life remained my family relationships. Over time, we had established a workable arrangement. I visited regularly, but as a sister, not as a replacement parent. Mom and I maintained a careful civility, neither of us quite ready to address the years of dysfunction, but both of us committed to allowing the kids access to each other. Jackson had turned 18 and was preparing for college himself, inspired partly by my example. He sometimes stayed with me on weekends, enjoying the quiet of my apartment to study for his SATs. I never realized how chaotic our house was until I spent time here. He told me one evening as we shared takeout Chinese food. It's like I can actually hear myself think. The twins, now 16, had begun to assert their own independence, pushing back against Mom's attempts to make them take on the caretaking roles I had left behind. Emma told Mom she wasn't giving up soccer practice to babysit, Jackson reported with a grin. Said she'd learned from you that it's okay to have her own life. Hearing that my actions had empowered my siblings to set their own boundaries was perhaps the most healing realization of all. The fear that had haunted me that leaving would only hurt them was being replaced by the understanding that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is model healthy behavior. The previous weekend, I had hosted all 6 siblings for a Thanksgiving dinner in my apartment. It was crowded and chaotic, with the younger ones sprawled on blankets on the floor to eat, but the joy of being together on our own terms was worth the cramped quarters. Even baby Lily had come, now 7 months old, and beginning to develop a personality distinct from the other children. Mom had reluctantly allowed Kyle to bring her, not quite ready to face me on my own territory, but willing to let the children maintain their connection. As I looked around my small apartment at the siblings I loved so fiercely, I felt a sense of rightness settle over me. This was how it should be. Not me as their substitute parent buried under responsibilities that were never mine to carry, but as their loving sister, a constant in their lives, but on healthy, sustainable terms. Ruby, can you help me with this college application essay? Jackson asked, pulling me from my thoughts. Of course, I said, smiling at this new dynamic where I could support, without carrying the whole weight. That evening, after everyone had gone home, and I was alone again in my quiet apartment, I reflected on the journey of the past year. The pain, the guilt, the fear, and ultimately the freedom and healing. I thought about the concept of family obligation and how it had been weaponized against me for so many years. Family was important, vital even, but not at the expense of your own personhood, your own future. There was a difference between loving support and self-destructive sacrifice, a distinction I was still learning to navigate. I thought about Diane, my mother with her 7 children by 5 different fathers, her inability to parent effectively, her dependence on me to fill the gap she created. I had spent years angry with her, resentful of the childhood she had stolen. That anger wasn't entirely gone, but it had been joined by something like compassion, or at least understanding. She was trapped in her own patterns, her own unresolved issues. My leaving had forced some growth on her part, however reluctant. Most of all, I thought about the young woman I had been a year ago, exhausted and depleted, unable to imagine a future beyond the next crisis, the next demand. That version of me could never have pictured this apartment, these college textbooks, this engagement ring, this hard-won peace. Breaking the cycle of unhealthy family dynamics isn't easy. It requires courage to face the guilt, the accusations of selfishness, the fear of hurting those you love. But sometimes the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and for those who depend on you, is to model what healthy boundaries look like. Now, when I help my siblings with homework or listen to their problems, it's a choice freely made from love, not an obligation driven by necessity. The difference is everything. I still have moments of doubt, days when the guilt resurfaces, or when I worry about the younger children. But those moments no longer define my life. They're balanced by pride in my growing independence, joy in my education, hope for my future with James, and a deep satisfaction in watching my siblings begin to forge their own healthy paths. Sometimes the bravest love is saying no, Sometimes the greatest gift you can give those you care about is showing them that it's possible to break free from toxic patterns and build something new, something healthy, something chosen rather than imposed. As I got ready for bed that night, surrounded by the quiet of my own space, I felt gratitude wash over me for Melissa's unwavering support, for James's patient love, for therapy that helped me understand what had happened to me wasn't normal or right, for the legal aid that helped me navigate a complex family situation, for my own courage in finally putting myself first after a lifetime of coming last. And most of all, for the realization that loving my siblings didn't have to mean sacrificing my own life, that I could be both Ruby the sister and Ruby the student, the fiancée, the friend, the woman with dreams of her own. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members? I know how challenging it can be to prioritize your own needs when you've been conditioned to put everyone else first. Share your experiences in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to choose yourself sometimes. Thank you for listening to my journey. And remember, breaking unhealthy cycles isn't selfish, it's necessary for everyone's healing.